Welcome to another Walter Football video. I'm Charlie Campbell, Senior Draft Analyst. Before we get started, I suggest you click in the settings here, speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5, whatever your comfort level is. Think that makes these videos a lot better. So let's get into the quarterback rankings. Here we are at Thanksgiving, craziest college football season we've ever had. We have guys who are sitting out, prospects who've only played one game. Other guys have had shortened seasons, been forced to sit out because of COVID. I mean, it's just been a really challenging year for NFL teams in terms of the evaluation process. You have less sample size, you have less tape to study these guys, less availability to compare them to each other. It's going to be a really challenging year for NFL teams to make good evaluations on these quarterbacks. And obviously, when you take a quarterback early in the draft, that's a big commitment. And if you screw it up, it can set the franchise back years. So this is going to be a really challenging year for teams around the league. But let's get into the quarterbacks, where they stack up. Here we are at the end of November. Let's compare and see the rating of them. Number one, Trevor Lawrence. I think this is still staying in the rock-solid category. Justin Fields has played really well, but I don't think well enough to pass Lawrence. One of the things that Lawrence has over Fields is just a much bigger track record in terms of tape. Fields was an excellent starter for Ohio State in 2019, but that's really the only full season you're going to see him as a starting quarterback. Here, 2020, it's a shortened season. He's playing well, but it's definitely not the same as last year. It's not like he's had two full seasons as a starter when he enters the draft. It'll be basically 1.5, 1 3/4, something like that, depending on how many games get played here in November, December, and January. So Fields, I think, is behind Lawrence because the experience factor with Lawrence makes him just much more of a safer pick. Obviously, he has a great skill set, throws the ball extremely well. His deep ball accuracy is phenomenal. Really good at using his feet to make plays as well, but he's an accurate pocket passer, has a strong arm, size, good intangibles, mobility, everything you look for in a quarterback. Trevor Lawrence has it, so definitely. And now you add in experience. He's won a championship as a freshman, brought his team back to the championship game as a sophomore. Junior year, we'll see how that plays out, but he has a championship pedigree regardless. So I think Lawrence is still rock solid number one pick in the 2021 NFL draft. I'd put the odds at probably like 95 to 98%, somewhere in there. Second overall pick, I think, will be Justin Fields. I think he's going to go second somewhat, whether it's a team that gets that slot or trades out. But I think Fields is the second-rated quarterback in this draft class, just in terms of his skill set is just superb. Really good athlete, can make plays with his feet, extend plays, but he also has a really good pocket passing ability. We've seen him throw the ball accurately this year. He makes good decisions, good ball placement. Looking at his tape from 2019 going into this season, the one thing I really wanted to see him improve upon was throwing against the blitz, not becoming kind of a deer in headlights in the pocket there. And I think in the early games here for Ohio State, we've seen some positive signs in that regard. He looks better throwing against the blitz than he did last year, but it's early. We don't have much of a sample size to go from. So hopefully we get more answers on that in the remainder of the season. But otherwise, I think he's a rock-solid quarterback prospect. He could stand to get faster, working through progressions, reading defenses, but that's just kind of like a standard point of improvement for every college quarterback going to the NFL. Fields is no different there. Even Lawrence, every quarterback, when you make that jump, is going to need some work in that regard. And definitely that'll apply to our third-rated quarterback, Trey Lance from North Dakota State. Only one game this season, one-year starter, played really well for North Dakota State in 2019. Didn't play as well to close out the season when the competition got tougher, but Lance has a great skill set, big size, tough kid, runs hard, really good mobility, strong arm, throws the ball accurately. He's going to need a lot of development at the pro level because he's making a huge jump in competition, and he only played one season of college football. So whichever team drafts him, I think really needs to stay patient. I think you need to work with him in practice, help him to adjust to the pro level in terms of the size and speed of the defenders, the speed of the defensive backs, the narrowness of openings that you need to be able to pass the ball into. He's just going to need a lot of development, and I think that whichever team drafts him, it would be smart to have a veteran in place that can be the starter while you work with Lance and you don't have to force him onto the field. But in terms of just his skill set alone, he's the third-rated quarterback in this draft class. So where he lands and who he lands with in terms of coaches and supporting cast going to have a huge impact on whether Lance is a boom or a bust. So the NFL team, it's important that they don't fail him for him to pan out as a pro quarterback. And we've seen that happen with a lot of quarterbacks over the course of the NFL history and recent history as well. Fourth-rated quarterback, Zach Wilson from BYU. He's having an excellent season, throwing the ball really well, showing accuracy, arm strength, mobility. Has made some plays with his feet, can extend plays with his feet. Good athlete to go along with being a good pocket passer. They haven't played much competition this year. The competition they've had has been pretty weak. I think Boise State is probably the best opponent they've had, and they're not anything to be afraid of this year. But hopefully we see Wilson take on some better defenses later in the season, but also in the postseason. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to look or who BYU's going to get, but it would be great to see him take on a defense that has some NFL talent on it that can test him. But I think with what he's done this season, he could go late in the first round. I think he could go early in the second round. It'll just depend on if a team trades back for him or if a playoff team is in the market for a young quarterback. So he's kind of in that range, I think 20 to 40, somewhere in there. So it'll depend on really the teams and their needs. Fifth-rated quarterback, I have Kyle Trask from Florida, another guy that's really helped himself this fall. He has just been phenomenal for the Gators, has thrown for 4 touchdowns in every game this season, and then 2 games with 6 touchdowns. His accuracy and ball placement has just been superb, doing a great job distributing the ball to his weapons, has really good weapons at receiver and tight end there. And the big knock on Trask is just that he's a statue in the pocket. Statue quarterback, can't escape the rush at the NFL level, just doesn't have that kind of mobility and athleticism. He does move around some, and Florida, as part of Dan Mullen's offense, calls some running plays for him. If the defense just backs off in coverage, you'll see him take off and pick up some yards on the ground. So he's willing. He's big, he's thick, he's a tough quarterback, takes hits in the pocket, but he's just not a guy that's going to be a big player to extend plays in the NFL and move around. But it's all about pocket manipulation in the pro game. Tom Brady's not a runner like Lamar Jackson, but he manipulates the pocket with his feet. He just moves, just glides to the right or left, steps up. Same thing with Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers. That's what Trask needs to work on to get to. He needs to work on getting that pocket manipulation, moving his feet just enough to help that offensive line to give him another second. But he's got the arm, he's got accuracy, he's a gamer. I was really impressed with how he played against Georgia when Florida fell behind 14-0. He shrugged it off, just ripped off a ton of points before halftime, and that game was over. So I think Trask is underrated, and I think he could end up being a steal for someone. 6th-rated quarterback Mac Jones from Alabama, another guy that's really helped himself this season. I think Jones is probably going to go in the second, third round at this point, but he could rise. Quarterbacks do rise, but he's definitely taken advantage of all those great weapons at Alabama. Jones has done a really good job of distributing the ball, has a good enough arm. He's kind of like a stronger armed Jake Fromm from Georgia, or maybe a shorter A.J. McCarron. Those are kind of the comps that I get from scouts on him. But I think he could, the team that likes him enough to draft him will probably do it on day 2. And we'll see if he becomes an NFL starter. The skill set, is probably average to above average, but nothing that blows you away in terms of arm or athleticism. So that's why I have him a little bit lower. But he's got the Alabama hype machine going for him. A lot of attention playing for the number 1 team in the country in a lot of big games. So that is something that could play a factor into helping him rise if he continues to play well and they, beat some good teams and get another national championship. So Mac Jones, I think, is a guy he's risen this year, but it's still fluid. He could rise higher. He could kind of settle in at day 2. 7th rated quarterback Jamie Newman from Georgia, sitting out this season because of the virus, and that was just a terrible decision from a football perspective, because now teams are just grading him based off his Wake Forest tape. And there he showed potential. He showed a good skill set, but he also showed he was raw, needed development. And at Georgia, he would have really helped himself in terms of playing with better receivers, a good offensive line, a good running game. They would have had, there's no doubt he would have had a good year, because there are plenty of easy opponents on Georgia's schedule. And I think he definitely would have been able to help himself if he just played this year, because he would have improved his just experience for the NFL, more reps, more time reading coverages, more preparation, more starts. There's no substitute for experience. There's just no way around it. And I think with a team like Georgia, as talented as they have a team there year in and year out, it was a big mistake on his part. And he's becoming a forgotten man. You have Mac Jones rising, Kyle Trask getting Heisman hype, Zach Wilson, same thing, rising, Justin Fields, blowing people away with opening game with only 1 incompletion. I mean, all these guys are helping themselves by playing, but Newman's training for the combine, and he's becoming a forgotten man. So I think that was just a disastrous decision on his part. Honestly, I think the smartest move for him would be, if he hasn't signed with an agent, if he can go back to school, and then, play a year at Georgia, because the 2022 quarterback class is still very fluid in this crazy year. Who knows where he could be in that group. Last quarterback, Kellen Mond, Texas A&M. He's helped himself this year. I think some teams view him as a mid-rounder, early day 3. I know some teams that graded him in the 3rd round. So he's kind of in that range, but he has a good skill set. He's improved accuracy this year under Jimbo Fisher. But I think that the enthusiasm there just isn't strong enough for him to rise into the 1st or 2nd round. But I think going on day 2 is possible in the 3rd round. And if he doesn't go there, then I think early rounds of day 3 is where Mond will end up going. But he has a good skill set, has improved as a passer, just the consistency throughout his career, I think, or lack thereof, is what dings him the most. So that's where we stand with our quarterback ratings here, looking into 2021 NFL Draft. Check out my work on walterfootball.com. Please like and subscribe. Please share the video. Really appreciate it. Follow Walt on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Draft Campbell. Walt is at Walter Football. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll be back with you soon.